And now we are live on video. Welcome everybody here to the live show. All right. Oh, Mark is here. Look at this. Dr. Lambchop on location. Steve, why don't you turn the video towards Dr. Lambchop for just a second there?
There's Dr. Lambchop.
Remember Professor Gary? Professor Gary messes with your memory. Steve, I'm getting audio feedback from you.
All right. Do you want me to mute?
Always. But yeah.
All right.
Okay, let me go ahead and hide you from the broadcast too. Or can you do that? We don't. You said people aren't seeing you anyway. All right, we are. Steve is hidden here. We got a small crowd today. I told everybody it'd be really fun because I'm doing some different stuff with my audio. You're going to hear me describe some stuff I learned from Dave Hamilton and Don McAllister about cool stuff to do with Audio Hijack, and I'm using those things I learned right now. So I figure things will go horribly wrong. All right. I'm drinking a fine Pacifico, and Steve and Marianne are both drinking grapefruit sculpins because she can't get the grapefruit sculpin in New Zealand. She can get regular sculpin, of course. All right. Let's do a quick roll call. We got Donald, Steve, Brett, Dan, Dr. Lambchop on location. We've got NosillaCast away 943, obviously coming in through the website. If you type /Nick space and the name you want to be called, we'll be able to see a real name on you. And you don't have to be anonymous. If you want to be anonymous, change it to anonymous. Anyway, we've got Sandy and Switcher Mark. Kevin said he was going to be late today, and so he got 5 demerits on his report card for that. So, all right, let's do a little test recording here. Let's see. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. All right, let's see if you guys can hear this. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. That's interesting. That does not go through the graphics processor, but you can hear a graphic playback. Okay, cool. Ooh, a nice cab. Yum. Are you glad Mark is here so he gets picked on first? That's good. iOS has playback. That's a miracle. It's a miracle. I'll be real curious to hear whether this sounds better. I really like how this sounds. You probably don't hear it too well in the playback through GarageBand, through Soundflower back over to Google Hangouts and Air. But let's go ahead and get the show started here. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, June 28th, 2015, and this is show number 529. Well, it occurred to me that many of you might not know that I'm open to improvement ideas for the podcast and website. I get suggestions from time to time, and I quite often implement them. My favorite emails and tweets are the ones that tell me about typos on the website. For some reason, I can see a typo when someone else is writing, across the room when the document is upside down, I can see it. But for the life of me, I can't see it on my own text. I hate it when I have typos in my blog because it makes me look like a moron who can't spell or has poor grammar. So if you see a mistake, please let me know. Another thing is 2 weeks ago, a fan of the show who has poor vision explained that the mobile version of podfeet.com had so little contrast that it was blinding for him. I use a WordPress plugin to generate the mobile version, and I'd never really looked at the controls on it. So I went poking around and I discovered that I have a lot more control over the look than I realized. Before he wrote to me, the background was bright, pure white, and the link text was kind of a real light sort of turquoise-ish blue. Now I have a muted gray background with dark blue links, like nature intended, and it's a lot easier to view, and he was really, really happy that I did that. This week, Helma tried to watch the live show when I had it during Europe-friendly hours, but she couldn't get into the chat room on podfeet.com/live. We chatted back and forth and eventually found out that she was viewing on an iPad. Now, I have a left and right sidebar that narrows the center column where the video and live chat blocks are side by side. We used to have them one above the other, but people said it was hard to watch the video and chat at the same time from the website. The result is that the live chat block slides under the right column on an iPad because the screen is so small, so it was completely unusable. In fact, she didn't even know it was there. I went poking around in my theme and I figured out how to suppress the right column on just that page, so it now works on the iPad. I'm telling you all of this so that you'll notice and maybe appreciate the changes, but mostly to encourage you to give me feedback on things you'd like to see me do or like to see changed, and especially to encourage you to point out those typos. I certainly do not promise to implement every idea you have, but you never know. If it's easy and I agree, I'll probably do it. All right, what have I missed? Okay, audio sounds really good on the website. Good to know, Sandy. Does it should be a little deeper and richer sounding. And I've got well, I'll be talking about everything that I did here, but I've got a sound limiter. What is it called? I've got a compressor running. Everything's done in software, so it's real cool. I'll be telling you about it. Rose. Yeah, Mark. See, I thought you'd enjoy that. Grammar mistakes. Oh, Sandy, please. Actually, didn't you send me something? Was it you who was talking about being a teacher with a red pencil behind your ear? I would love to have you do it. See, Steve is good at editing, but the problem is he starts to want to edit the content. And I don't want him editing the content. I'm okay with typos, but he's like, well, I don't like the way you said this, and he tries to change things. So, yeah, that's not quite right. My new pet peeve is literally, oh yeah. You know what's driving me nuts now is there's a new phrase everybody's saying, and it's this: no, yeah, or yeah, no. It's like you're agreeing with the person who said something negative, and so you say yeah, no, or vice versa. It's a really weird thing. And now that I've told you about it, it's going to drive you crazy. It's going to literally drive you crazy. All right, I actually need some editing. All right, let's keep going here. For the longtime listeners to the NosillaCast, I have a personal request to make of you. I need your help. Honda Bob is my mechanic and our friend and a NosillaCastaway. He's been on the show a whole bunch of times, and I used to do ads for him. He's been my mechanic for more than 35 years. For some reason, the idea of creating ads for his services by the NosillaCastaways took off, culminating in Nightwise doing an entire ad as a Klingon war commander. It was hilarious. Anyway, Bob has been diagnosed with a blood disorder called, and it's going to be tough to pronounce this, myelodysplasia syndrome. It's a bone marrow failure disorder. Basically, the bone marrow stops creating enough healthy blood cells. The good news is that it's curable. Bad news is it requires a bone marrow transplant. The good news is that healthy people can donate bone marrow without too much trouble. The best chance of a match for bone marrow is in a sibling, but while Bob's two siblings are a perfect match for each other, they're only a 50% match for him. Unfortunately, I'm not a match, and Steve was going to register, but it turns out anybody over 50, they say that's not a great match either. So this is where you come in. I would love it if you would register to be a bone marrow donor. It's pretty easy. You go to join.bethematch.org, and of course, there's a link in the show notes, and they send you a kit. You do a swab on the inside of your cheek, and you send it right back. Boom, you're done. By the way, if you just want to go give blood and register when you do that, I'm pretty sure they do that too. Now, I should warn you, there is a huge danger in doing this. The danger is you could potentially save somebody's life without a lot of inconvenience to you. So, you got to be ready to live with yourself after that. Bob told us that the bone marrow registry is international, so we're not leaving you out of this if you're in Japan, Uzbekistan, New Zealand, or Australia. Thanks for considering doing this. Honda Bob could really use your help. Never use a red pen, which is go by my ear. I don't know who that was. Somebody said that in a tweet after they'd corrected something I did. Got a bunch of people coming in from the website. Hello, 824 underscore 943. Looks like somebody came in twice on from the website. Steve is trying to tell you that if you type in /Nick and then put a space after it and write the name you want, you'll get a real name. Yeah, way over 50 cents. Yeah, it was weird. You can still do it, but they make you pay to do it because the chances of a match are so low. So that kind of stinks. But anyway, all right, here we go. Now I'm going to talk about audio hijack. This is so fun. One of the great things about teaching classes at conferences and user groups is how much you learn. Oh man, Steve, did I ever go back? I am going to just make sure. I'm not positive I pulled the text back after you edited the auto hijack stuff. I'm going to go into WordPress here and pull it out again. One moment, please. Best to check them. Yeah. That's weird. I don't like that. All right. All posts. I think I did, but let me just go pop it back in. Yeah, that was okay. This is a case where I did let Steve edit because we were talking about digital signal processing, and that is one of his expertise thingies there. So I don't begin to be the expert in this one. So I let him edit the content there. It's all swole up. Okay, so I'm going to go from here to here. Just a second. Oh, I remember. I definitely didn't do this. Oh, this is going to be a pain. I have to read this in a different way because it is not going to. Oh, I have an idea. Hang on. Oh, if this works, this would be so much fun if this works. Let me do a find. If I find, two. How do you do a paragraph symbol? No, I thought that was a way to do a find. Shoot, that isn't going to work. Oh, I'm going to have to read this in creepy way. All right. We're going to have to do this way. This is going to be annoying as all get out. Oh, I got a better idea. No, I'll just view the post. Cancel. I forgot to do this, but okay, I don't want to just view the post. There we go. I'll just do it from here. All right. It's a long, complicated HTML reason why I'm stuttering about what I'm doing here. But that's it. No, I didn't want that. Let's see. All right, we're almost there. Here we go. Hold, please. All right, here we go. Oh, perfect. Perfect. This will work. All right. One of the great things about teaching classes at conferences and user groups is how much you learn when you teach. Last week at MacStock, I did a demo of the new Audio Hijack, and I have learned so much more about the tool because I taught the class. Before I explain exactly what I learned, let me back up and just make sure everybody knows why you might care about Audio Hijack. This application is designed to capture audio on a Mac from external microphones, physical devices, software applications, and even system audio. Once hijacked, you can record the audio, boost the volume, enhance the audio, and more. Even though I actually read the manual cover to cover in preparation for teaching the class, it turns out I hadn't scratched the surface of what it could do. Audio Hijack has a new and unique interface that allows you to drag bricks down onto the audio grid, where bricks represent microphones, speakers, recorders, and more. When you drag them onto the audio grid, you essentially create an audio flowchart, which is called a session. Sessions are automatically saved, so I have one for the live show and a completely different one that I use for chit-chat across the pond. By the way, you'll hear me talk about how visual Audio Hijack is, but it's also completely accessible to the blind. I wrote to Rogue Amoeba, the makers of Audio Hijack, suggesting it would be really cool if there were a way to share these sessions. I can't say if there were a way. It's if there was a way. I wrote to Rogue. Did you know that? That's my favorite grammar thing ever. If the assumption is assumed to be true, you say if it was. And if it's assumed to be false, you say if it were. I just do what I thought I did. Let me see. I wrote to Rogue Amoeba. All right. Fun with grammar since we were talking about our pet peeves. Let's see. I wrote to Rogue Amoeba, the makers of Audio Hijack, suggesting that it would be really cool if there was a way to share these sessions. And they explained that if you drag the session off of the session view to your desktop, you can just give them to other people. It was so easy, it never occurred to me to try to do that. I have to admit, I was a bit nervous about doing a talk on Audio Hijack at MacStock because I knew Dave Hamilton of the Mac Geek Gab was going to be in the audience. Dave is a musician and is highly knowledgeable about audio. Some people say he's anal about audio. And I was just a little bit worried I'd say something dumb and he'd call me out. He promised beforehand he wouldn't heckle me, so that was nice. I always heckle him, so I don't know why he was so nice. Imagine my surprise, though, when after the talk, he told me that I had designed some sessions in a way that would not have occurred to him, so he actually learned something from me. Audio Hijack comes with built-in effects that are written by Rogue Amoeba, but they also give you access to the Apple Audio Unit effects. When I gave the talk, I simply said, these audio unit effects are things that people like Dave Hamilton understand, so don't ask me anything about them. After the talk, Steve and I gave Dave a ride back to Barry's Midwest Mac Barbecue, and we got talking about Audio Hijack. That's when things got really cool. He explained that he uses Audio Hijack when he's on the road to record his show with John, and that's when he's away from his fancy pants mixer. He does some processing of the audio within the tool using those audio unit effects I know nothing about. Well, I, of course, had my 12-inch MacBook with me and a MiFi for connectivity, so in the car as Steve drove, Dave started teaching me some cool stuff. He sent me the session he uses, and I brought it up on my MacBook. I'm telling you, I am doing so much more with that Mac now that it weighs only 2 pounds. I mean, we were just handing it back and forth between the seats of the car with no trouble at all. The main thing Dave taught me about was the audio unit effect called AU Dynamics Processor. This is a brick you can drop into the audio workflow to do several things at once. Used properly, it can provide a compressor, which enhances the audio by compressing the variation of volume to a smaller range. It does this by lowering the volume of the higher peaks. So imagine you're doing a recording and you get super excited about something, like I actually just did, and you holler into the mic. Without a compressor, all of the rest of the recording will be much quieter to leave enough headroom to accommodate that loudest part. If you add a compressor, even if you get super loud, the compressor doesn't allow the loud sections to get that much louder. The overall effect of using a compressor is to make the recording much more listenable with less variation in the volume. This is particularly important if you're trying to listen to a recording in an environment, say with a lot of background noise, like a car. If the recording is compressed, you can turn up the volume to hear it over the background noise without blowing out your ears, since the louder portions have been limited in volume. The cool part of doing this with Audio Hijack is that you can actually see and hear the effects while you're doing the recording and even compensate for changes real time. I'm going to take a breath because I've been going a long time, see what I've been missing. Oh, you guys are chatty tonight. I'm literally choking right now. I like it. Oh, Nurse is here. Hey, Nurse. Wait, she's gone already? Uh-oh. Oh, she's 8:24. Yay. I hope you're not driving. Steve. All right. Steve's talking to someone named Don, but I don't see a Don. There's a Dan. Who's Steve talking to? Uh-oh, somebody's named Great. Hi, Great. All right. Let's see. Where did I just stop talking here? Recording and even compensate for changes real time. This is going to be really handy for me during recording of the Mac Roundtable, because there's a few members of our team who get really excited and yell, and then they're really quiet a little bit later, and we'll be able to compress all of that sound and make it much more listenable for the audience. So we've talked about one end of the audio unit dynamics processor, but at the other end, you can use the same little brick tool to provide a noise gate. Now, a noise gate is useful. Let me give you an example of where you'd want to use it. I often record my interviews, especially Chit Chat Across the Pond, with the windows open. That's why you often hear birds chirping outside. I don't notice it that much myself, but I think it gives Chit Chat Across the Pond in particular a little more casual feel. But what if I'm recording for Don McAllister's Screencast Online, or I'm on Tom Merritt's Daily Tech News Show? Maybe they wouldn't think the birds are so adorable. By adding a noise gate, I can make the lower volume noises in the room disappear completely or be at a dramatically lower volume. You choose a volume threshold and then change how quickly the lower volume sounds will be reduced or eliminated. Learning in the car from Dave was great, and I got the basic gist of how it worked, but I knew I'd need to really play with it to grok it. This week, when we had some time to breathe, I roped Steve into helping me experiment with this whole thing. His graduate study work was in digital signal processing, which is exactly what we're doing here, so I knew he'd understand it and be great at teaching me how to actually use it and get the terminology right. I dropped an image of the dynamics processor graph I'll be describing into the show notes in case you want to refer to it later. You'll see a graph where the horizontal axis, actually, I'm going to let you guys look at that. Let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. Where's Chrome? There we are. It's dangerous. I'm going to save before I do this, just in case I don't do anything stupid. Oh, it is a NosillaCast Don. Hello, NosillaCast Don. What am I doing? I got to go to Chrome, and I'm going to share. What if I want to share this one, I think. So you're probably just seeing, you're not seeing the brick. Let me bring the brick up so you guys can see it live while it's doing it. All right. Steve Chapman, can you see the dynamics processor moving now? Is it on screen or no? Stupider, more stupid, stupidest. I can see the whole screen, but can you see the dynamics processor? This thing, there's a window floating where it's got my voice jumping up and down on that graph we worked on, but not the processor itself. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, let me try this. If I have it like that, can you see it? No. Phooey. I know what I'll do. Okay, I'm going to bring that up over here, and I've got it pinned. I will do this. Where's the picture of the graph? Here it is. Okay, copy image address. Here you go. Okay, here's the image of what I'm talking to. This will help as I'm describing it. You guys will get more out of it if you're listening to me at all. I dropped an image of the dynamics processor graph I'll be describing into the show notes in case you want to refer to it later. You'll see a graph where the horizontal axis. Okay. Let's see, Steve, you said you don't see the image. I just dropped it, link to it in the show notes. I mean, into the live chat. Just the overall flow was all you could see. Yeah. Apparently it's not picking up the window, the pop-up window, because that thing pops up on screen. Why did you go to the end? That's really annoying of you. Refer to it later. You'll see a graph where the horizontal axis. Okay, you'll see a graph. That's where we will start. All right. Yeah, it's not Audio Hijack Pro, right? Audio Hijack. Great. Are you new here? Or are you somebody being silly? Let's see. You'll see a graph. There we go. Here we go. You'll see a graph where the horizontal axis is the input volume and the vertical axis is the output volume after the processor does its thing with the input. If every level of audio was treated the same, you'd have a graph that was a diagonal line from the bottom left to the upper right. In other words, the output would match the input. On the high volume end, we want to have the audio gracefully roll off so that when someone gets super excited, it doesn't actually get as high in volume. On the graph, there's a dot called the upper threshold. Along the diagonal line, you change the level at which the input and output volumes will stop being the same, and the processor will start compressing the louder audio. You also have control of a peak limiting dot, which defines how gently you want the volume to be limited above the threshold. I know this sounds complicated, but I really got the sense of how it works simply by experimenting with Steve while we were both on Skype and listening to the effects of moving these dots. When I dragged the peak limiting dot down, I could holler my little brains out and he never heard me getting much louder. The compressor also keeps the high volume sounds from distorting, which is really slick. On the low end, you're sort of doing the opposite. You want to make the lower volume sounds disappear, but not abruptly. Let's take my bird chirping example. I slid the lower threshold dot up and down the line until Steve could not hear the birds, but then I could drag the bottom of the line to an angle. That's called the input-output ratio, so it wasn't an abrupt change from sound to no sound. If you drag the dot so that the output goes to zero and a cliff below the threshold, you'll kind of give it an unnatural cutoff of the sound right as you start speaking. Here's part of the real magic of Audio Hijack. You can experiment with it while seeing it visually and hearing the effects of your changes. When you start a session, you can see the audio flow through your flowchart as a gold line. It gets thicker as the sound gets louder. Steve and I sat quietly, and you could see the birds chirping. You could actually see the gold lines moving with the birds chirping. As I slid the input output dot up the line, I could see the gold line getting thinner and thinner and thinner until it was completely gone. It was a little bit harder to tell how abrupt I was cutting off the audio, though. It wasn't until I brought one of the recordings into an audio editor that I could hear when I was too heavy handed with the noise gate. The way you can tell you're doing it wrong is that when you start talking, it's sort of clipped off at the beginning, like you came out of nowhere. This is also controlled by the attack and release on the processor, but those are even more advanced features that we're not going to talk about. Okay, Steve's talking to me in the background while I'm talking. See what's going on? Oh, you're still seeing audio hijack. That's what he's telling me. Okay. Thank you, dear. Stop screen sharing. There we go. Now, it's a little hard for me to monitor myself with the setup that we have going when I'm recording, like I'm recording right now. But the nice thing is with the live audience, I'm piping the sound just as it will go into the recording into the Google Hangout on Air. So people would tell me whether it sounded stupid. So it's always nice. Yes, the live chat room is always there to tell me if I sound stupid. Anyway, Don McAllister was also at MacStock, and after my talk, he mentioned that he had started using Audio Hijack after, actually, no, I'm going to add something here. Anyway, Don McAllister was also at MacStock, and after my talk, he told me that when I did the Audio Hijack video for him for Screencast Online, he finally got over the hump and decided to start using the new version himself. He'd been nervous about it because he knew the other one worked, and he hated to change it in something so important as in his workflow, but when he saw that I could do it, he figured anybody could do it. Once he started using Audio Hijack, he started doing things to improve his audio and mine in his video screencasts. He volunteered to send me his Audio Hijack session so I could see what he's doing with my voice. He's been processing my audio by running it through the same dynamics processor about which Dave and Stephen have been teaching me, and he also added a 10-band equalizer, which is a built-in effect from Rogue Amoeba. Now, I've seen equalizers in the past and, real hardware ones, and I understand that dragging those little sliders up and down cause different frequencies to be enhanced. But for the life of me, I don't know how you actually decide which way to go with them. Emboldened by my success with the audio processor, I started playing with the 10-band equalizer in Audio Hijack. The best way for me to start to understand it was to start flipping through the presets that are built into Audio Hijack. For example, Rogue Amoeba has included presets for bass boost, treble boost, classical, hip hop, jazz, etc. I did a recording where I tried each one, and since I could monitor the audio, I could tell what I liked and what I hated. Dave suggested when playing around with these effects, it's good to listen with good headphones, with earbuds, maybe even make recordings that you listen to in the car to make sure you get the most pleasing effect across all the ways people might listen. I'm probably not going to do that, but you go for it, Dave. Don also used the mono enhancer effect from Rogue Amoeba. There are no controls in it at all, so I had no clue what this was supposed to do. I went searching the internets for some reference to mono enhancer effect, and I found a blog post on Rogue Amoeba's site from 2003. In that blog post, Alex Lagutin was talking about tweaking audio he was pulling using his 33.6K modem. He had one short line in the post about where he explained that mono enhancer creates a pseudo stereo sound image of mono signal. I'm not sure I really buy that part of the story, but the equalizer plus audio processor changes could really take the NosillaCast audio up a notch. So Steve and I had a ball playing around with this, and hopefully what you're hearing right now is better than before. If you like it and you think it sounds better, please send me a note. Tell me if you can tell. If it sounds worse, just send a note to Dave and Don and tell them I said it's their fault. Oh, bye, Nuris. Okay. All right, now I'm going to put that down. Now I can go back and look at that. I was afraid of that. Okay. Here is the next thing I'm going to talk about. This is the new. Is Kevin here? All right. I think Kevin and Nuris might be the same thing. Oops, that's not the, well, no, let's see. Where's the image? Copy. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Copy image? That's not going to work. No, that's not it either. Okay, I know I can do it. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I want you to see. That's it on Amazon. Right. Okay. Oh, good idea. Good idea, Brett. Cool. Brett saying that he sent that link to the watch stand to his mother for gift idea. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty light. Maybe I should hold it up and show it to you guys. Steve, could you send your assistant in here to bring the watch stand over to me? That would be really handy. Steve now has an assistant, so that's good. Ooh, you got the 12 South one? It's going to have to be unplugged from the wall as well. Or the yeah, whatever. It's got my watch on it there too. So that this will be assistant Marianne, technical assistant Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. So this is the dock. It's made out of aluminum. It's the one thing I don't like about it is it's kind of light, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But you just shove the Steve, you're back on audio.
That's a nice assistant you have there.
She's amazing.
Works for beer.
Yeah, exactly. So this just pops out here, and normally it's supposed to be through like that. I have it a different way because of the way the cable drags on my desk. But anyway, it pops in there and it keeps the watch at a nice little angle there. Exciting. Velcro for the win. Yeah, maybe. All right. Okay. Let's see. So that is what I will be talking about. I heard the 12 South one is really good. Yeah, that Velcro sounds really nice, Mark. Mark's got Velcro to the top of his iHome to Velcro the puck down. It sounds a horrible solution, Mark. Sounds really ugly. All right, here we go. The Apple Watch is an elegant piece of kit, but the charger that Apple sells with it, with the watch, has a 6-meter, rather stiff cable going to the little magnetic puck. Since the cable is stiff, the puck kept flipping upside down, so the magnet wasn't face up when I went to plug him, to charge my watch. The puck is also white on both sides, so you really have to inspect it closely to be sure you've got the right side up. The only way to tell if you don't have your glasses on is to set the watch on it and wait to see the bright green charger symbol come up or not. That means it's upside down if it doesn't come up. I figured there had to be a more elegant solution. I bought the Spigen Apple Watch stand to see if it would fix these problems for me. The Spigen stand is a curved piece of brushed aluminum that is very Apple-like. It captures the magnetic charging puck in a black rubber gasket material. That makes it hold the puck firmly in place, but it's very easy to take in and out. There's a slot in the gasket to firmly hold the cable so that it can fit nicely through the slot on the side of the aluminum stand. They were brilliant on this slot. They made it big enough to fit either the USB end or the puck end through for easy removal. For some reason, I had this feeling that I'd have to always run it one direction, but you can pull it out either way. The stand holds the watch at a pleasing angle of about 45 degrees, so you can see it from above or across from the watch. It sounds funny. Across from the watch. I can hear the birds, Steve. Why am I hearing the birds? Oh, maybe they're just loud up. I thought you closed my windows, right? It's weird. He's not listening to me anyway. Okay.
Were you asking something?
Yeah, I can hear the birds, but I must be hearing them through the windows. You closed all my windows, right?
No.
Oh, okay. One of them's still open. I knew you closed one.
Open it or close it?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good. I got a limiter. Pull it out either way. Let's see. The stand holds the watch at a pleasing angle of about 45 degrees, so if you're standing up or laying down, whichever way, it's really easy to see the watch. That makes it perfect as a desk stand or as a night table stand. The watch band easily drapes over the top and underneath the stand without any fiddling. It also holds the watch firmly if you lay it on sideways, which means it will work for the new nightstand mode coming in watchOS 2. It doesn't look quite like it was designed to go that way, but it would definitely work. If I had any complaint about the Spigen stand, it's that it's not heavy enough. Great to be light if you want to carry it on travel, but the charging cable pulling on it makes it hard to keep it exactly where you want it and at the angle you want it. It's not a huge downside, but a bit more heft to the stand would be a welcome change. The Spigen Apple Watch stand is $19 on Amazon. I put some photos of the stand in the show notes so you can see how good it looks. Or you can go like Switcher Mark and glue a big piece of Velcro to the back of the puck and then glue another piece of Velcro to the top of your iHome and then stick it on there every night. I think the Spigen stand is a much better idea. Oh, Mike. Hi, Mike. It's Mike LaPlante. That made me so happy that you used my picture as your profile photo. That to me that's how I know when somebody really likes a picture I took, when they make it their profile photo. Awesome. Mike LaPlante of iChat Radio. All right, here we go. George from Tulsa is a generous man and frequently will shoot Steve and me an email entitled "Brown Truck Arriving Soon." By this, he means that some gift is coming our way. One time it was peanuts, once it was the thing that plugged into power, giving us USB ports and more 110-volt ports, and one time it was a pair of scissors designed for opening up those annoying plastic packages. Like Forrest Gump so famously said, you never know what you're going to get. A few years back, he sent me an Oyen Digital Mini Pro external USB 3 SSD, which I use as a bootable Yosemite drive for emergencies. Just recently, the brown truck arrived again, this time carrying a Transcend 128 gigabyte portable SSD that's the size of a few credit cards stacked together, again with a USB 3 interface. I think this was in response to the tests I ran on the OWC Envoy Pro Mini SSD. A few people thought it was a little bit expensive for what you got. But it was fun working on that review because we got into some great discussions on how to measure speeds on SSDs, how it matters greatly what kind of files you're trying to move, compressible versus incompressible, and whether the memory is synchronous or asynchronous flash. Like the OWC unit, the Transcend ESD 400 promises 410 megabytes per second reads and writes of up to 380 megabytes per second. Well, it sounded like it was time to run some speed tests to verify these claims. As you may recall, the Blackmagic speed test is for real-time video read-writes. Let's see what it says anyway. I ran the tests and Blackmagic shows 140 megabytes per second on write, but 418 megabytes per second on read. So read is right in line with what they promised, but the write speed is not nearly what they showed on the box. Maybe it's the wrong kind of test, as we learned during the last speed test. The fine folks over at OWC suggested a speed test for more real-world testing is one called AJA Systems Test from AJA Video Systems, available for free for Mac and Windows, and of course there's a link in the show notes. Surprisingly, with AJA, I got even lower speeds. I ran a 128 megabyte test and a 1 gigabyte test, and I got around 80 megabytes per second write and up to 390 megabytes per second reads. It's even worse than the Blackmagic test. I noticed that the drive was formatted MS-DOS FAT32, so I thought it might be interesting to test the drive in the native Mac format, Mac OS Extended. I believe that's HFS+. After I reformatted the drive, the AJA test for writes almost doubled as it went to 150 megabytes per second write, while holding strong at around 385 megabytes per second read. I should also mention that the AJA test does appear to be looking at video speeds, so there's a pull down for choosing the video frame size along with the file size you want to test. I looked back at the post I did explaining synchronous versus asynchronous flash memory and changed the settings to match exactly the ones that I did with the OWC Envoy Pro Mini. In those tests, I used a 16 gigabyte file size and chose the largest video frame size, of 4096 by 2160. Gotta tell you, it really pays to write a blog about everything you do and document with screenshots so you don't have to rely on your own memory. The Transcend got a slight bump up with this test, sticking at 155 megabytes per second write, but went way up to 425 megabytes per second reads. I still wasn't even seeing half of the read speeds they promised, though. Perhaps I should do a true real-world test, drag a truckload of files over to it and see how it does using iStat menus from Bojangles. I grabbed the last 5 years worth of NosillaCast folders without any audio files because I know those are incompressible, and it was around 2,000 files totaling 10 gigabytes. I simply dragged it onto the Transcend SSD. I grabbed a screenshot when it was at its highest rate, which showed 132 megabytes per second writes. That lined up exactly with the official test, so I think we've got some good metrics here. In all of my tests, it performed in writes at less than half of the rated speeds. That's not good, but I would like to point out something. That 10 gigabyte transfer of 2,000 files took a grand total of 1 minute and 15 seconds. So I could have cut that 105 seconds down to, say, 40 seconds. I got to tell you, if you're scheduling your life that tight, you just might want to think about loosening up your schedule. The Transcend ESD 400 portable SSD is very small, but still bigger than the Envoy Pro Mini. The Transcend performs writes at less than half the rated speeds, perform just as well on reads. Set it backwards. Sorry. The Transcend ESD 400. I thought about saying something to Pete, but I think Pilot Pete will get that joke all by himself. That was for you, Pete. Anyway, the Transcend ESD 400 portable SSD is very small, but still bigger than the Envoy Pro Mini. The Transcend performed writes at less than half the rated speeds, but performed just as well on reads. The big difference between the two of them, though, is the price. The 120 gigabyte Envoy Pro Mini will run you $120 at OWC, while the Transcend ESD 400 is only $83 on Amazon right now. I think the sizes have gotten small enough that the Transcend might win my vote, since I'd mostly be writing to it on travel and not reading so much, and it's 30% less expensive. I like that we have so many awesome choices in this arena now. You pretty much can't go wrong. I should also mention that the Transcend comes all the way up to a terabyte. A terabyte in the Transcend will run you $450. Pretty cool, though, to have a terabyte in your pocket. There were a bunch of typos in that. This is the hard part. I see them when I'm reading, but then as soon as I'm done, I can't find them. I think I wrote one word twice. Somebody else here, Steve, I'm going to send you this paragraph. And let's see. I'm going to send it in messages, and then we need to go fix it over on the website later. So I'm going to send it to you in messages because I know it was in here that there were a bunch of typos. Just gonna plop that over. Maybe Marianne should be given write privileges to our to the blog. All right. Ooh, you have the 512 gig on Thunderbolt. Do you like it, Brett? I'm reading. He does not need a 5K iMac. Okay, so here's the story with Steve's iMac. Those of you who are worried about poor old Steve, his iMac turned out to be under warranty, and so it's being fixed right now, and he'll have his baby back tomorrow or Tuesday. So no, don't worry about him. All right. I realized this week that I hadn't yet set up ClamXAV's antivirus on my new MacBook, so I toddled off to go. Too many stumbles in a row. I realized this week that I hadn't yet set up ClamXAV antivirus on my new MacBook, so I toddled off to go download it. I was surprised but not disappointed to see that the developer, Mark Allen, has decided to make this into a commercial product. It used to be free. I say I'm not disappointed because if I can pay for it, I'm helping to ensure that it will stay in ongoing development. After a decade of free development, he's now going to provide official support channels, fast response to support requests, fast turnaround of bug fixes, new features, he says they'll be exciting, and regular updates. It's $30, but Mark is doing a 25% off sale right now to bring in the existing customers, so it's only $22. Put a link in the show notes to clamxav.com where you can go get it. When you listen to this week's security section from Bart, you'll realize it probably is more than time to run an antivirus on your Mac. Now that I had my paid up version of ClamXAV, I needed to configure it. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, it's awesome to have everything you ever knew documented. So I knew I could just tootle over to the tutorial section on podfeet.com, look for security tutorials, and find my instructions. I realized in looking at them that they needed a wee bit of updating, especially with the news that ClamX AV is a commercial product now. One of the great things about documenting stuff with Clarify is that it's so easy to modify and re-upload. I opened Evernote where Clarify stores all of my tutorials, and it wasn't there. That's when I realized that I'd been running ClamX AV so long that I had done the tutorial using Blue Mango's older and deprecated tool, ScreenSteps Desktop. I still have a copy of ScreenSteps, and sure enough, I was able to open it up, and there was my tutorial. But I want it over in Clarify now. So who do you think probably has even better documentation than me for their help files? I went over to clarify-it.com, did a search on how to move from ScreenSteps to Clarify. There were fabulous instructions showing me step-by-step with pictures and everything. And in about 30 seconds, I had my document over in Clarify. I made a couple of changes, saved it to Evernote, and then pushed the WordPress button and posted the new tutorial to podfeet.com. If you make instructions for yourself or others, or wish you would, but it's too hard with the tools you have, go over to clarify-it.com and download the free trial for Mac or Windows. And when you inevitably buy it, be sure to tell them Allison sent you. How is everything else going with you guys? Oh, Ken K is back. Hi, Ken K. How are you? All right. Kevin, take your ears off. Time to bring in... So Mike is new here. The reason I always say take your ears off is because if I just barely bump a button here, you guys will get your ears blown out. And Kevin's ears actually fall off. It's kind of a strange thing when that happens, but all right. Ooh, I guess I should have a window up with my audio files. Chit chat. Bart. And there's Bart. It is all security this time. It's good. All right. All right, right there. Yeah, that's about the way Steve likes it. I like it a little more than that. All right, let's hear how this sounds. Steve, get ready. Steve, you ready for symbols check? Maybe Marianne should weigh in on this one too. Here we go. .com and download the free trial for Mac or Windows. And when you inevitably buy it, be sure to tell them Allison sent you. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. And we have Bart Bouchat's in for a special. Symbol's a bit long. Yeah, I think I would agree with that. That was more the way you like it. I like it right there. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. And we have Bart Bouchat's in for a special security episode, right, Bart?
Right. And what week is it time of?
Well, yeah, that's
we're time traveling.
No, we're not that far off. It's the 23rd, so it's a Tuesday, and this will go out on Sunday. But luckily, on today's show, they're also hearing from you, except in my voice.
Oh, that's going to confuse people immensely.
I know.
Yeah, so anything that's happened between Tuesday and Sunday won't be talked about here because none of us are psychic.
Let's just hope it slows down, shall we?
Yeah, we haven't done a non-time travel recording in some time, so maybe that's why there was so much in my RSS reader. But I start off, I edit. I basically, as the month goes on, I collect security stories into a little folder in Instapaper. And normally when I come to do a show, there's like 30 to 40, and then I edit them down to just what we put into the security like bit.
Right.
I opened my folder today to start writing show notes, and it said 80.
Oh, jeez. Good thing we didn't wait till Sunday.
True.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, I want to say something here. I want you guys all to listen to this episode from Bart. And if you find during the time that you're listening that you think you got $1 worth of use out of this, I want you to go over to go over to let's-talk.ie and push either the PayPal button or better yet, push the Patreon button and support Bart. It goes because of his other shows, but it's a way for you guys to appreciate the work that he does here because he works his tail off to bring us this. And I don't think anybody does it better. So I know you hate plugging your own stuff, Bart, so I'm going to do it for you.
It's because I'm a terrible salesperson. I always forget that bit.
You are the worst. Okay. Well, we got a tight schedule, so I'm going to go ahead and let you get started. So we're not going to have a regular chit chat. This is going to be all security, right?
Yeah, because we have a tight timetable and there's just so much here. I just didn't see the point in making something else up for us to then skip.
Definitely not. All right, let's kick in.
Let's start with the first of the security medium stories, which is it's not a bug, it's not a vulnerability, it's a collection of things that have been collectively given one of two cute nicknames, either Zara or Cord. I think.
Okay, this is complicated enough. I can't give you a partial on this one. This is a lot of work here. All right. Heard from the trinket that when the local law enforcement would look for him, they found his clothes, but no guy. Oh, geez, Brett. That is nuts. It's nuts. Brett, for those listening on Alpha Geek Radio or the app, not seeing the live chat, Brett is telling us about how his he's on a train and some guy in the middle of the desert pulled the emergency brake and jumped out, ran into the desert. And later on, they found his clothes and not him. Wow. Okay. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Topic and stuff. And until then, happy computing.
Okay, did I tell you that when you were done, you're going to want to go over to clamxav.com and get yourself an antivirus? Remember, the basis of everything he said was if you had malware on your system, all this stuff could happen. Probably not, but could. But if you keep there from being malware on your system in the first place, then or catch it when it first gets there, then none of this is going to matter. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Many thanks to our sponsor for helping to pay the bills. Head on over to clarify-it.com. Get yourself a free copy, free trial of Clarify. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at podfeet. Let's see. You can check out the NosillaCast Google Plus community too. I've got a question I got to post over there. I'm having a real weird problem on my Mac. I'm just going to go to the Google Plus community. Way smarter people than me over there. So podfeet.com/Google Plus. If you want to join in the fun of the live show, like Mike LaPlante did this week from iChart Radio, I really encourage you to head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. You made the headlines, Mike. Exciting as that. All right, ears off, Kevin. Let's see. Long. All right. Anybody have questions for the brain surgeon here for Marianne? And enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. All righty. That sounded good. Because I could let her come in and talk to you guys if you guys have questions. Let's heckle. Oh, good. On location. By the way, Marianne, let's see, where's this go? Right there. On Facebook, I put details of the show being on, and then I tagged Devin on it. So I wonder if she's listening. Let's see, how's it going? 529. Well, it occurred to me that I nailed that. All right, now I've got to zoom in on these things. Marianne, why does my head hurt? Chit chat across the gin and tonic. Yeah, I'm trying to get her to be the guest again. I don't care what she talked about. I think we'd have fun. Let me bring that down some. That is a lot of me talking. Look at all that. Look at all that content I did. 25 whole minutes of content. Mind melds. Your head hurts because you keep banging it with something. Nice, nice. Well, I hope this audio came out good, better. We'll see. I might keep playing with the 10-band equalizer because I didn't mess with it. I pretty much put it the way Don had it. So again, it's his fault if we don't. All right, I'm going to share. I'm going to export song to disk, and then I am going to run away and go have some fun with Marianne. There we go. All right, we're exporting to disk. I'm going to say goodbye to the live audience. Let's see. We'll do last in, first out, whatever. Let's say goodbye to Alpha Geek Radio. Goodbye to Alpha Geek Radio. Goodbye. And now goodbye to the app people who paid money for their app, to Donald Burr. You should all go do that. Goodbye. And finally, to the people who actually came to look at my face in the video. Goodbye, everybody.